slow preparation, fast execution. But to learn even more, you need to unlearn some things.
Hi, welcome to Lean Stories. I'm Jonathan Bertfield, the CEO at Lean Startup Co. This is where we dive deep with practitioners from around the world who've discovered the transformative power of the Lean Startup methodology. So in each episode, you'll hear authentic stories from product leaders and innovators across a wide variety of industries and geographies, how they discovered the Lean principles and the pivotal moments that changed their approach, and the real-world impact that they see of putting customers at the center of everything they build. You'll find notes below about our guests and about getting in touch with Lean Startup Co. Today, we're going to be speaking with Sergio Gutierrez-Montero, and he's going to talk to us about the importance of customer learning, of experimentation, and maintaining what he describes as a beginner's mindset to challenging our assumptions. And I'm really excited to hear his story. So, Sergio, tell us a little bit about who you are, the work that you do and the work that you've done, and some of those career moments that you've had that really guided you to a place where learning from customers and experimentation has become how you operate.
Thank you for having me on the podcast, Jonathan. My name is Sergio Gutierrez, as you said. Currently, I'm director of AI strategy and implementation at AbbVie, which is a pharma company just north of Chicago. We had the best-selling drug in the U.S., probably the world, for like 10 years in a row, Humira. So, a very reputed brand and company. Before that, I joined AbbVie 12 months ago, roughly. Before that, I was working at McKinsey and Company, helping incumbents build new business and internal startups to grow organically. So very much tying back to the whole lean startup experience that I had previously. I think one of the moments I would call them moments of clarity that I had was talking with someone called Alex Castellarnau, who was at IDEO. He is from Andorra, which is this principado between France and Spain in Europe. In essence, he had a job that I wanted to have, so I just reached out to him and we were chatting. And I was at that point living in Chicago. And he's like, "Oh, it seems that you wanna do what he called venture design." And he not only put me in the right path to find my next role with Doblin, which is it was the Sunset the brand, a design and innovation firm, part of Deloitte, here in Chicago. In essence, he introduced me to Lean Startup. He actually recommended me the book, and I started from that moment on, I started very much kind of applying my design strategy background plus those more experimental methods to my work, and especially lately at McKinsey and AbbVie.
That's awesome that you found someone who could give you that guidance, right? When you're feeling a sense of something. What were some of the earliest moments for you where you were putting that into practice? Like, what did that look like in the work that you were doing? Like, was it an example of an experiment or an interaction with customers that said, "Oh yeah, what I heard from my friend is actually translating some real impact and value for me"?
Yes. So that was with Steelcase. So I did a quick stint, an internship at Steelcase. They had a new digital business unit I call Digital Ventures within Steelcase, who was tasked to with developing new software products that were complementary to their hardware products, which were in essence furniture, collaboration spaces, and so on. So I brought many of those, design thinking or design strategy, whatever you want to call it, plus experimentation mindset from the Lean Startup to developing the value proposition of one of those products, which in essence was, it's kind of sounds silly, but it was a way to be able to share documents during virtual meetings. This was many years ago, so it was still new. Being able to share securely and assemble documents on the fly for presentations during virtual meetings. Again, we are way past. We were experimenting with that many years ago, but that was it's something that is obviously now a very common thing. But we were actually working on a product called Codename Volley to be able to do that. So, anything around prototyping, anything about testing with users, anything about, testing the value proposition, the growth hypothesis, all those ideas came directly from the book that you have in the background here, and that I do also have on the background.
Those types of experiments that you're running for that volley project, when you look back on those, were they good experiments? Were you doing it right even back then? Have you evolved since then from those kind of early attempts?
I evolved. So I was trying to do both quantitative and more qualitative experiments, like in essence, just quick user testing, scrappy research. And we tried to set up an A/B test, like a landing page experiment. That actually was kind of difficult. And, we built two versions of that, one with a development partner that built a nicer website. And then I built something that at the time was, I forgot the name. It was like a quick way of assembling a landing page experiment and being able to drive traffic. And it was like, we wouldn't be getting any traffic. So I think the assumption is, in B2B, very niche. What I learned is B2B, very niche spaces, like the one we were developing the product for. It's probably better to just establish relationship with customers that could help you develop the product and test those hypotheses in a more qualitative way versus trying to do the more consumer-facing type of like landing page experiment. For example, in this case, there is more appropriate for high volume, high interest, consumer interest kind of type of use cases.
We're dealing with humans at the end of the day, right? And so we want to understand from the humans something beyond the surface level wherever we can. Have you found yourself able to get past that or build on that? Like where has that led you as you've been doing more experiments over the years?
I think it says, I find it to be, at the end of the day, markets are humans. Like, to your point, markets are people. You need to kind of get in touch with and talk to the market, to the people in ways that challenge your assumptions. So something that I do to get past, there is never getting past talking to people, because at the end of the day, they are the users or they are the buyers or they are the influencers. You need to just get a conversation going, especially in B2B, which is a very relationship-based type of business. You need to just know the decision makers, and there is a short list of those people. You need to spend time doing that. So there is no shortage. There is no way around getting and interfacing with people and understanding their problems deeply, and also using those opportunities to have an absolute beginner mindset and just comfortably and easily let go of your initial assumptions to be able to pivot that thinking into something that is actually more aligned with what they want. Something that I found, and maybe this is helpful, something that I found more helpful than not. I think Lean Startup was the methodologies were sometimes misinterpreted. People thought oh, I'm going to come up with the first idea and then I go test and then I'm going to iterate. Actually, I combine design strategy and lean thinking methodologies to my advantage. I think taking a little bit more time in understanding the space, like running ethnographies, running in-depth interviews, it's a better way for me to inform stronger hypotheses that then you can go and experiment and test against. So I think that the two methods actually combine very nicely. And actually what it may seem like a slower burn or a slower process, overall end-to-end becomes a faster process by implementing some slower methods at the front end of that process.
So, because that's always been a challenge for me, has been there's an instinct amongst both people who are building products, but also leadership to just get started doing the building, right? And so one of the challenges with Lean Startup is it requires you to take a beat. It requires you to say, okay, before we build, let's just slow down a little bit, right? So that we can understand whether our enthusiasm is justified and charge ahead, right? So what you're saying is adding even more time to that, right? By getting deeper on the ethnography and really understanding who the users are or might be has helped. So just unpack that a little bit for us, because that sounds like go even slower so that you can go even faster.
Exactly. And it's almost like Brian, I don't know if you know the oblique strategies card.
Sure.
The Brian Eno created has one that is slow preparation, fast execution. I think the first part is the slow preparation, coming up with a stronger, even stronger hypothesis that you would have otherwise, and then being able to run through the experimentation much more quickly and being able to validate the value proposition, the growth hypothesis, and so on more quickly. Yes, it's going slower, but I think it's good to strike the right balance. I mean, design strategy practitioners that are deep in their like craft, sometimes they demand from stakeholders a bit too much time. So I think I'm always inspired by people like Erica Hall, who's a very very well known design researcher in the Bay Area. She has this book called. She has a few books. One of them is Conversational Design, and another one is Just Enough Research. How you actually, in scrappy ways, get to the core of the thing. Like if you do 100 hours of research, you're probably gonna be learning the same as if you were to spend 5 hours or 10 hours of research. So it's almost about, yes, creating a point of useful friction, but not going into a long-winded dragging process, which is not gonna be. It's gonna have very much decreasing returns to scale.
How have you found that's played out with those stakeholders in terms of striking that right balance? Certainly from a research perspective, I can understand it. I wonder how you felt those leaders have reacted to that.
I think sometimes stubbornness of wanting to build something quickly remains. So what I do is I stop like trying to die on that hill, if you will. I just give them something to chew on. Literally, like, this is a vision, a prototype, but hey, I caveat that very strongly. This is just a hunch that I'm already validating. So sometimes I just like put together a vision, prototype, or whatnot, or what the solution could be, and then I use that to both manage the stakeholders' expectations about progress, but also using some of that to quickly test. So things like design prototypes, clickable prototypes, and now with all these AI product development tools like V0 and Lovable, those things are much more easy to do and address both the anxiety and angst of stakeholders to move fast, but also the needs of a probably more robust process of testing and iterating.
You mentioned something a little bit earlier. I just want to pick up on it. So you used the word mindset. You said a beginner's mindset. Let's just dwell on the idea of what the mindset needs to be and how you, in the various roles that you've been in, how have you drawn that mindset out from either your teammates or from your stakeholders? Like, what is that mindset, and how have you managed to allow it to grow across the teams that you've been working with?
I mean, I have a few tricks, but let me develop the theory as we speak now. I think absolute beginner's mindset starts with acknowledging that you know about the space, but to learn even more, you need to unlearn something. So something that I do before going into the field to do research or to run like listening sessions with customers is actually put out there our assumptions about what the problem is, what the product should be, the solution should be, how we're gonna grow, like almost like putting this out there. So almost by putting it out there collectively on a list, we can almost unlearn those things. It's like or being able to more easily challenge. Oh, I was thinking this was A, but it's actually, after we talk with the consumers, it's actually B. And being able to do that cross comparison is a good way to, as a hygiene methodology, to be able to unlearn something so you can even learn much more. And again, things like there is ways to frame insights as we thought we were actually going to learn this, but the reality is that something different. So there are ways to, both from a process perspective and also how you write the insights, are going to create that kind of new knowledge, new understanding of the problem space, and obviously the solution needed for that problem space.
In the teams that you've been in, has doing that developed the mindset? Like, have you seen that process, whether that's the assumption mapping or the actually running the conversations with customers, has that just organically developed the mindset, or do you have to be much more deliberate about it?
I think you always need to be deliberate, and you can turn very quickly into the least liked person in the room by trying to push process on others. It's more about, a quick, a graceful conversation with stakeholders. So, for example, a perfect example, McKinsey is very hypothesis driven, and we come in with typically the tradition in the firm is to come in with a very strong hypothesis based on deep industry expertise. And again, that's the polar opposite to beginner's mindset. We are being paid to have literally there is something called day one answer that you need to put together before you go into the first meeting, like, this is what we think it is. You may understand that's a very tough situation and context to actually bring people back into a little bit of the beginner's mindset. So I stopped trying to die on those hills. It's about parallel tracking and being able to not explain the process, but show the results of your process. Hey, we said the day one answer was this, but actually the signals we're picking from the market and consumers and users are this. So let's iterate the hypothesis. Because otherwise there is a risk. And also framing things in terms of risk is like, what is the risk of building the wrong thing? Like, you are spending millions of dollars and months in building something that nobody's not gonna buy or use. I think it's a more graceful. I learned that, again, trying to go head to head with from a methodological perspective of it's unproductive to go into those conversations about we should do this versus that. Is actually the combination of all those things that moved us faster. And I'm a big fan of hypothesis-driven thinking and consulting, because it may get you to an answer 50, 60, 70% correct answer, but the differentiation comes in the last 30%. The fact that you're going to win traction and differentiation with respect to your competitors with a product comes from that last mile of thinking.
So let's wrap up with one last question around your role. So your title includes the word AI and strategy. How have you been playing into that role? What is the influence of AI on the work that you're doing, and what is the influence of lean and experimentation on the AI work that you're doing?
If I were to kind of put a ratio, it's mostly lean and decentralized methodologies, and then coming at understanding the right problem, building the resolution, and then seeing if AI use cases or technologies fit into that picture. So I very much start with again, the problem in mind, framing the right problem, understanding the right problem, and being creative about how to solve it, which may or may not include AI things. So much of the work I do is about understanding people's workflows, where the pain points are, and then some of those pain points can be solved with AI technology, but others are as simple as having a better intake process or a better digital experience or a better way to go about the work. So it's very much influenced by that. And you would hear me say at the office at work every time I present is for being someone who has AI in their title, frankly, I couldn't care less about the technology piece. I care about the problem space and a solution that may or may include that particular technology. I'm very liberal with AI, and you said only when actually it's required.
Well, Sergio, so appreciate your time. This was a really fun conversation. Thank you very much. Great to hear some of your ideas and your approaches.
Fantastic. Thank you for having me, Jonathan.
Thank you for joining us for this lean story. If this discussion with Sergio aligns with your challenges, the ones you're facing every day in your organization, whether around innovation, around scaling, or cultural change, I'd really be happy to continue the conversation. We can get on a 20-minute call and explore how lean principles can really drive measurable impact in your business. You can schedule a time with me using the link below in the show notes, and I look forward to connecting. See you next time.